Hello, everybody, and welcome to Uproot Reddit. When you work so hard to accomplish the dreams that you achieved, there's always going to be one person that tries to take it all away. That one person could be your family member. There's nothing more infuriating than dealing with a family member that feels so entitled to take everything from everyone and take all the credit. Hence why telling your family all your accomplishments may or may not be the best thing to do. In fact, do you have a family member that you just can't stand because everything they say or do just always seems to cause a lot of trouble for you and everyone else? Reddit user Yeet Dat Boy sure does. And let's just say, their story really shows that there are those kinds of entitled people that exist in this world. In today's post, Aunt takes advantage of my grandparents and my mom's pregnancy to steal our house. She gets put in her place. Well, based off of that title alone, looks like this is a good payback story. Here's what happened. Quote, "Now here's the backstory. My dad has an older sister we'll call entitled aunt, and always, even as a child, my grandparents treated her like an angel and treated my dad like a piece of crud." Note to self, never play favoritism with your kids. For example, when my dad was in college, he wore clothes that had holes that were about 3 inches wide. And the tradition in China is that you get a lot of new clothes in the new year. His mom told him that they were going to get him a brand new coat for the winter, and my dad was really excited. A few days before New Year's, though, his parents said that they can't get him a coat. The coat they were going to give him cost 1,000 yuan, about $143 US. But can you guess where that money went? Entitled aunt's freaking boyfriend. That is a very low blow. How can your son like that? Here's something worse. The coat they gave the boyfriend was 2,000 yuan. You could have just split the dang money so they both have new coats. The second my dad was out of college, he started working his butt off. He was able to give his parents money every year, even when they treated him like junk. Later, finding out that every year all that money goes to entitled aunt. But that's a different story. You get the gist. My dad treats his parents really well, and all that effort equals nothing. Or it goes straight to entitled aunt, which also equals nothing. Now here's the full story. For some reason, they hated my dad, mom, and me, and siblings. This happened a few years ago when my mom was giving birth to my brother. I didn't realize how bad this story was until a few years ago because I didn't understand. So I was born in Beijing. My mom was somehow able to foresee that prices in houses were going to go up in there. So she and my dad worked hard to buy as much houses as they can. However, there is a limit to how many houses you can buy in Beijing. But my mom was able to find a loophole. She bought the house with her own money, but put the house under someone else's name. She bought a house and put the house under my dad's mom's name. My mom paid for all the renovations. Important later. Fast forward about 4 years. My mom was pregnant with my brother. There's a law in China that says no having more than one baby, so they came to the US to legally have a baby. This is when entitled aunt saw her chance. She took advantage of my parents' absence to manipulate my grandparents, telling them to put the house my mom bought 4 years ago under entitled aunt's husband. Obviously, my grandparents caved in really easily and transferred it. Again, another low blow. This is why favoritism doesn't really work out in a family. Luckily, my mom's brother, and I don't know how, was able to find out that they transferred it. Now, we were still in the US, so we weren't able to deal with this immediately. My parents called their lawyers to have a court summon for entitled aunt. She took her time and waited for the last warning to finally come into court. She brought my grandparents along too. According to my uncle, She was smirking the entire time, waiting for the trial to begin, thinking that our side of the court can't really prove it, while low-key insulting our side of the family. I don't know how to translate this, but she said things like, "My brother was always naughty, probably also passed it down to his children too." Or, "My brother was such a coward, he didn't even want to come, because he knew I'd win," says every loser. Then came the sweet revenge. The court first asked entitled aunt to talk. She said that the house was bought by grandmother and was then given to her husband, obviously with no proof. See, when you don't have any proof, can the court really believe what you're saying? Then my uncle with the lawyers took out a record. Papers are starting to show. Clearly stating that my mother purchased this house with her own money. I wish I could have seen entitled aunt's face, but my uncle described it as a dark green and maybe a little purple too. Now, is that dark green with envy and then purple because she's suffocating from her own lies? Because if that's the case, that makes sense. The judge then asked entitled aunt if this was true. Now, you will be surprised to see what actually happens next. The judge stated that if she was to lie, she would end up with much worse than just giving the house back. So maybe lying is really not the best option right now, is it, entitled aunt? But look at what she pulls out of her hat. Quote, "Surprisingly, she still stood her ground and claimed that the house was indeed her husband's, who got the house from grandmother and paid for renovations." Again, if you've been lying for so long and taking advantage of people, this is the type of thing that would normally happen. You continue to lie to a court that can legally put you against your own word. I think at this point she's starting to believe her own lies. Anyways, we continue. That's where she messed up. And big time. My uncle and the lawyers triumphantly took out another paper saying that my mother paid for all the renovations. Clearly not my aunt's husband. That's when she broke down like a little baby. She started crying, screaming, in undecipherable language. Wow, that actually is very embarrassing. When you see a grown woman acting like a little baby because she started to believe her own lies and getting the court to believe her lies, that's when you realize, is this person actually for real? Like I mentioned at the beginning of the story, there are people like this out there. You would be amazed. Anyways, we continue. She was soon taken to jail for 1 to 2 years, give or take. I forgot, but holy crow, she deserved it. There was a famous car insurance commercial that had a very good one-liner that said, "Payback. This time, it's for real." Definitely applicable to this story. Anyways, Yeet Dat Boy also had an original title that said this, quote, "Spoiled and entitled aunt steals house while my parents are in another country and gets put in jail." I mean, whoever said stealing and not getting caught was actually profitable. And Yeet Dat Boy continues, "That got a load off of my chest. This annoyed me for the longest time. Honestly, it would annoy me too. My mom also tells me a lot of other stories about entitled aunt and my grandparents, and they're pretty triggering. Nobody wants to be a part of the trigger-happy family, am I right? But that was a really good revenge story. In fact, there's nothing like a good revenge story and a cup of coffee to start off your day. That way you can sip to the sweet, sweet taste of victory. So, entitled aunt, instead of stealing a house, guess what? You received a nice and cozy stay in jail. Well, I guess all of that lying and taking advantage of people really did pay off. Although the court did warn you that if you lie to them, that you would receive a far worse punishment than just handing over the house to the rightful owner who put in all of her hard work, sweat, and probably tears to building that house and renovating it. It seems like all the years of taking advantage of people have really come back to bite you. But anyways, that's all the time we have for today. If you have a really good revenge story, please let us know in the comments below. And we'll be back for more sweet revenge stories right here on Uproot Reddit. Remember, keep your houses safe from this entitled aunt, and we'll see you all next time.